Today we're going to talk about a little bit of basic car maintenance. Since you're a young person, you're probably driving an older car, and just doing a few simple things that don't cost much can really help a lot. The first thing we're going to check is the tire pressure, and you're going to need one of these handy gauges that look like this. Now you can get digital ones, but I prefer these old-fashioned analog gauges because you don't have anything that has to go bad. You don't have a battery that's going to wear out or anything like that. Some of these have lasted me decades. So we'll start with the tire pressure. The first thing you have to do is you have to figure out what the pressure is recommended on your car. And to do that, you're going to open up the driver's side door. And right there inside the door jamb, you're going to find a sticker that looks like this. And here you can see for my fancy van, the front tires and the rear tires both are recommended to be at 36 PSI. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Now that we know the exact pressure that we need, we can start checking the tires to see if there's enough air in them. So as you go to the tire, you're going to unscrew one of these caps, and hopefully you have one of these caps on your tire. If you're missing the cap, you can get these for very, very cheap at the auto parts store. But it helps to keep dirt and ice and water out of the caps where we put the air in. And then we take our handy pressure gauge and you push it on there, push it firmly, and as you can see, the pressure shot out here at the other end. So we're going to try to read that. And you can see that it looks like it's about 40 pounds of pressure. So I actually have a little bit too much air in these tires for what is recommended. So then if I want to let some air out, then I can take the other side of this gauge. And you can hear that I let some air out of the gauge as I push that on there. And I don't want to do too much without checking it fairly often and seeing just where I'm at. So it's hard for you to see on there, but I'm going to keep doing that till I get the right pressure on there. Make sure to check all 4 tires and to put the valve caps back on. Now, if you have to remove air, it's pretty easy. Adding air takes a little bit more time unless you have a compressor at home, and I don't have a compressor available. So I will show you that in just a little while, how to add air to your tires. Now we're going to check the oil. To check the oil, you're going to need a rag or a paper towel or something like that. But before you get started with that, you want to find where the hood pop is in your vehicle. So on my vehicle, you can see that it's right here in the front. But it's for some vehicles, it's down in here somewhere. Some even have just a button somewhere on the console. But for mine, I have to pull that. I don't know if you could hear a little click. I could hear a little click out front. And that only opens it halfway. And this is a safety thing because cars in the 70s and 80s, sometimes if that had been pulled, then your car hood could flip open while you're driving down the highway. So that opens it up to release this front part, but you can still see that there's more that I have to do. And right up underneath here, you sometimes just have to feel for it. There's another lever that you push, and when you push that lever, then you're able to open up the hood, and then some hoods stay open by themselves. This one you can see moves up and down, and I'm having to hold it while I hold my camera, but I have a little thing here that pops up, and then it goes into a slot in my van's hood. You can see that there now, how that works, and that holds that up. You don't want to put any extra weight on that. You don't want to have a little brother or sister going on that or putting weight on that, because they're usually pretty flimsy and can close pretty easily. You can see now a little bit better the latch system that I had to lift. This was underneath the hood, and when I lift that, it opens up the latch to allow me access here into the engine compartment. Now, once you get used to your own vehicle, it's going to be easy to find the different things that you're looking for. But right now, what I'm looking for is this thing right here, and sometimes they'll have different colors on them. It's called a dipstick, and the dipstick is what lets you be able to see how much oil your vehicle has. So we'll come back in just a moment for that. Dipsticks are all just a little bit different, but basically you want to pull it out in a straight shot, and then you're going to clean it off, because as the car is running, make sure the car is not running as you do this, but when the car is running, the oil is going to be climbing up the stick. So you want to see what the level of oil is when the car is still on level ground. So you pull the dipstick out and you wipe all the oil off of it, and you put it back in the slot it came from. Just put it in till it goes all the way in, and then pull it back out, and then you're going to read the dipstick. So as you see there, I can see where the oil is, and some dipsticks will actually say, here's the fill line, here's where it's full. This one doesn't have that even on the other side, but I can see where the oil is, and it's filling up that first bubble or hole, and it's kind of near the second one. So I should be good with the oil, but I might need to add just a little bit of oil. When I'm done, I put that back in there, and I'm done with checking the oil. Now, we'll talk about how to add oil in just a second here. You can see the spot where we checked the oil, and when we go a little bit over here, this is where you're going to add oil, and it tells you what kind of oil that you need right there, 5W20. And you're just going to open that up and make sure you have the right kind of oil. And the best thing to do, you can pour it right in there, but you have to kind of be careful. You can also buy a funnel to help put it in there. But the best thing to do is to just put a little bit in there, and you can leave the cap off while you're doing this. Remember to get the 5W20 or whatever your vehicle says. And then check the level of the oil again, because it's not good to have extra oil in there. What you're looking at right now is the box that I keep in the back of my vehicle. And this box has just about everything that you would need. There's a plastic bag, there's duct tape, there's a hammock in there, there's jumper cables, which we'll talk about at a different time. But what you'll notice is that there's a bottle of oil here. I always keep that, even though I hardly ever use it. My vehicle does not burn oil. Some vehicles use a lot of oil, and I have some water down there too. But I keep that there, and then that way it's always available. And because I live in a cold climate in Colorado, I actually have a jacket and a sleeping bag in case I ever get stuck in my car. All right, two other things that you can check while you're here inside your vehicle checking on things. One will be the brake fluid. And the way that you can tell brake fluid is because usually it says something about .3 on the cover. I'm not sure if you can see that in there. It's right there at the very top of the screen right now. It says .3, and that's just a kind of brake fluid. But the nice thing about the brake fluid, you can check it from the outside, and it's hard to tell on the video, but I can see inside that container that there's enough fluid in there. It's a line that says, here's the fill line, and I know that it's good to go. The other thing you might check while you're here is the power steering fluid. And you can see that that looks a lot different than the oil. And it just has a thing that kind of pops off, and you can look in there and you can see that fluid in there. Most vehicles don't use those two fluids. They don't wear out, but I keep some in my vehicle just in case. And actually my vehicle has been using power steering fluid. It's been getting low after 6 months or so. So I check that one quite often. And then you've got one more thing over here. You can see this one is blue, and it's the washer fluid container, so that you can keep your windshields clean. All right, we'll come back and show you how to fill a tire up. These days, there's a dumbing down of the machines that pump air into your tire. So what you're going to see is a machine that looks like this, and it will automatically turn off for you once you reach the set tire pressure. So earlier we had talked about figuring out what your tire pressure is. So you're going to find that on the side of the tire and then set this machine to the desired pressure. You can see that I've set this to 44, the pressure for my van. And now I'm connecting the hose to my tire. You can hear it pumping the air now, and when it beeps 3 times, that's when you know that it's full. For a normal air hose that has not been dumbed down, what you'll need to do is add a little bit of air and then check with the tire pressure gauge and make sure you're not going over the amount. That's some basic car maintenance. There's so much you can learn about a car. I am definitely not a car expert, but I can do some of these basic maintenance things myself.